True leaders aren't appointed. True leaders choose to lead at work, at home, in their communities, wherever they are. And great leaders understand that it takes a range of skills and leadership styles to successfully lead others as a cohesive unit. This so-called new normal we find ourselves in requires more leaders than traditional organizational structures usually allow. And working in this new normal demands that we look at who else can be leaders and how they need to act in a way that is relevant to our current situation. The great leaders in the new normal choose to lead with all 4 dimensions of leadership. The first dimension is inwards leadership or self-leadership. Now, inwards leadership starts with doing introspection on a daily basis to spot areas we might need to improve on. And the power of inwards leadership isn't in knowing that we are imperfect, but in taking responsibility for our own improvement by acknowledging mistakes and saying sorry when we need to, and consistently working at changing our behavior and improving our leadership skills. We first need to learn how to lead ourselves before we can effectively lead others. All of us can become better listeners, better communicators, become more comfortable with change and more comfortable using new technology and so on. Inwards leadership is also about doing the right thing even when no one is looking. And this is especially important for those who are seen to be the big boss. My daughter asked me once why I always start working at a certain time every day, even though I work from home and with no one around. So I answered, it's because of company rules. And then she said, but Mommy, I thought you were the big boss, and I thought that the big boss can do whatever they want. Great leaders don't just do whatever they want. Great leaders know the rules, they know the reason for the rules, and they set an example for others on how to follow the rules. Great leaders also know when and how to challenge the rules when needed through the second dimension, upwards leadership. Upwards leadership is probably the most difficult of all 4 dimensions. It is about gathering your courage and telling those above you what they need to hear rather than what they may want to hear. Too few people do this in fear of losing their jobs or making life difficult for themselves. But this is part of being a great leader. Upwards leadership is not about just challenging the way things are for no specific reason. Upwards leadership is calm, composed, and considerate of why things are the way they are. Great leaders don't make suggestions upwards to serve their own agenda, but rather to ignite change towards the greater good. Leadership is a journey without an absolute top or an absolute bottom. We are all leading someone, whether we're aware of it or not. And that means we have to pave the way upwards for those who will follow in our footsteps. It also means that we have to make it easy for those following us to tell us what we need to hear but might not want to hear. And that brings us to the third dimension of leadership, and the one that is most often associated with management, downwards leadership. There is a common misconception that downwards leadership should be driven by command only in order to keep discipline in the ranks. But great leaders know that getting people to do what they need to do is dependent on maintaining a delicate balance between discipline and inspiration. Leading with too much of the hard stuff often leads to people feeling unappreciated and uninspired, but leading with too much of the soft stuff, on the other hand, can make for a happy but unproductive workplace or even massive corporate scandals. Great leaders effectively lead downwards through a combination of communication, trust, and discipline. Expecting others to do certain things a certain way without clearly and proactively communicating those expectations sets everyone up for failure. Great leaders are skilled communicators. They know how to talk to different people in different ways, and they are great at listening to feedback that helps them to clarify any misunderstandings. Great leaders have learned not to micromanage once they have ensured that everyone knows what is expected of them and why it is expected of them. They trust people to do what they need to in the agreed framework, but they keep an eye on the pace and the direction of the progress through their own set of checks and balances. These checks and balances must not be dependent on the say-so of one or a couple of people. Great leaders know how to use information and data to see if everyone is doing what they're supposed to be doing in the way they're supposed to be doing it. And great leaders are not afraid to discipline those who step out of line as soon as they step out of line. The fourth dimension of leadership is outwards. Outwards leadership is about influencing systems outside your immediate environment to make life better for everybody else. As our world is becoming increasingly interconnected, great leaders know that they can't just protect their own followers. They've got to play an active role in making the world a better place and setting others up for success. Great leaders don't bunker down in gilded offices. They walk the talk, they participate in industry discussions, and they become involved in causes relevant to their purpose. They also use what they learn to ensure the relevance of their own vision and to drive continuous improvement among those they lead. The overarching attitude of great leaders across all four of these dimensions need to be guided by belief, passion, and courage. Great leaders know where they're going and why, and they believe 100% in their vision. And the strength of their belief is like a magnet, and others can't help but to get excited about aligning themselves with the vision. Great leaders exhibit authentic passion for their cause and for their responsibilities, and they have a clear set of values that sets the tone for everyone who follows them. And finally, great leaders have the courage to make the really difficult decisions, take risks, and deal with the consequences.